Hi everyone, Josh Guest here. We spoke a couple weeks ago about a hypothetical government attack on Bitcoin, written by someone with extensive experience in Bitcoin mining. He hypothesized whether governments could co-opt sufficiently large portions of Bitcoin's hash rate in the form of industrial-sized mining outfits to drive usability and user trust on the network into the ground. My rebuttal of his article demonstrated that the Bitcoin blockchain is far more robust than we even realize, and I stand by my assessment that the Bitcoin blockchain is well positioned to withstand coordinated government attacks on miners. But that discussion led me to muse on whether other blockchains, in particular those that don't rely on the proof of work consensus mechanism like Bitcoin does, are as resistant to government attacks against their own processing power. What better place to start than by addressing the elephant in the room? Proof of stake. Outsiders and altcoiners alike have attacked Bitcoin's energy usage for years, and the European Union went so far as to try and ban proof-of-work cryptocurrencies outright earlier this week. Those same critics have proposed that Bitcoin move to proof-of-stake in order to address what they believe is an unsustainable environmental footprint. Their chorus has only grown as developers on Ethereum, the second largest cryptocurrency by market cap, have signaled their intent to eventually migrate off of proof-of-work and onto proof-of-stake. The proof-of-work consensus mechanism works by enlisting computers to expend energy and computing resources in order to confirm transactions on the blockchain. In no small way, Bitcoin's decentralization and security are directly influenced by the number of computers mining on the network. After all, the cost to take over the blockchain by gaining a majority of computing power rises as the number of benevolent miners grows. Proof of stake is a whole different ballgame, though. The ability to confirm or deny transactions on a proof of stake blockchain is directly tied to the amount of the native cryptocurrency that they hold. Validators, which are proof of stakes versions of miners, are not required to expend resources on an ongoing basis to pay for upkeep or energy like miners on proof of work, meaning that they can maintain their percentage of the network's processing power much more easily. In some cases, the size of one's stake also corresponds directly to one's ability to govern the blockchain. Tack on the reality that staking rewards gradually shift the cryptocurrency supply to those who can afford to stake while diluting those who can't, and we have what could be a glaring attack vector for malevolent, well-capitalized assailants. This is where governments enter the picture. Governments have huge incentives to dislike and even actively work against cryptocurrencies and crypto-adjacent technologies, which threaten to remove them from the seat of power over economies they've enjoyed for decades. They're also extremely well capitalized since they have the ability to tax their citizens or use the wealth of their citizens to subsidize government expenditures since they control inflationary fiat currencies. Under that context, their subversion of a proof-of-stake blockchain might look something like this. Staking on a proof-of-stake blockchain requires that a user, at a minimum, has sufficient technical know-how to navigate the complexities of smart contracts and node operation, among other things. Add to that the fact that some blockchains require that a minimum amount of the cryptocurrency be staked in order to be a validator. Take ETH 2.0, for example, where users are required to stake at least 32 ETH or they can't be validators themselves. At ETH's all-time high of just under 5,000 US dollars each, buying 32 ETH to become a validator all on your own would have set you back a cool $160,000. Given the massive cost and demoralizing complexity, it should come as little surprise that most stakers choose not to go it alone, instead entrusting their holdings to a staking pool operator for a small fee. Staking pool operators are a massive point of failure. The largest operators are almost always regulated entities like Coinbase and Binance that only exist for as long as governments allow them to. And don't be confused about where those companies' loyalties lie. They will not stand up for your rights or your assets when the government comes knocking and puts their freedom and livelihoods on the line. If governments want to attack staking, they'll go after the pool operators with a vengeance. When they do, a huge portion of the supply staked on a proof-of-stake blockchain could go offline relatively quickly. Of course, not everyone stakes with a pool operator, centralized or otherwise. There are plenty of people who operate as solo validators or in quasi-decentralized staking pools that are more resistant to government overreach. Stakers who are able to get their coins out of the centralized staking pools before the government launches its offensive would also probably bring their portion of the supply back online eventually. It's at this point that the government's manipulation of proof of stake would go into overdrive. Governments would be able to acquire a large amount of the proof-of-stake cryptocurrency with relatively low effort, either by confiscating assets from the seized staking pools or buying them from scared users who are rushing to get out of the cryptocurrency as its value gets crushed under the onslaught. At that point, it's a simple matter for the government to start staking a massive percentage of the cryptocurrency supply it possesses, diluting remaining holders while also going after any surviving validators it can locate. Under such a scenario, whether it takes days, months, or years, the government will eventually have sufficient power as a validator to simply refuse to confirm any transactions it doesn't approve of. Or even, for blockchains where governance is also tied to ownership of the proof-of-stake cryptocurrency, alter the code base to reject other validators and users outright. There are a lot of risks in today's world that we like to ignore under the assumption that they'll never actually happen or impact us. Perhaps this will be one of them. Perhaps governments will falter before they can effectively carry out such an attack. Perhaps they'll never care enough about proof-of-stake blockchains to even try. The future is full of possibilities. One thing is certain though, if governments want to kill proof-of-stake, it's a lot simpler for them to do it than most of us realize.